The Harmony fleet moved through space like a plague. 30 massive vessels, each one 3 times the size of a standard galactic warship, advanced toward the Carina sector with clear hostile intent. They ignored every attempt at communication, every offer of negotiation. They simply came steady and inevitable. High Arbiter Velthun stood before the Galactic Council's emergency war session. Representatives from 200 major civilizations filled the chamber, with thousands more attending via holographic link. The mood was tense, fearful. Many species present had never experienced war. They had lived under the Valdran Empire's protection for generations, safe from external threats. We know very little about the Harmony, Velthun explained, his ancient voice steady despite his concern. Long-range probes suggest they're from another galaxy, possibly Andromeda. They appear to have done this before, conquering and assimilating entire civilizations. They view the Milky Way as their next expansion target. Ambassador Choi Minho sat in Humanity's Council seat, studying the tactical displays. What are their weapons capabilities? Unknown exactly, a Valdran military commander responded. Initial sensor readings show energy signatures unlike anything in our database. Whatever technology they possess, it's not based on the same principles as ours. We need to assemble a defense fleet, someone suggested. Combine our forces at the edge of the Carina sector. Velthun nodded. The Valdran Empire will commit 70 ships. Other species are requested to contribute what they can. One by one, civilizations pledged vessels. The Nexian Collective offered 40 ships. The Korthian Confederacy, despite their recent conflict with humanity, pledged 20. Smaller species contributed what they could. Within hours, a fleet of 200 ships was being assembled. Earth will send 12 ships, Choi Minho announced. Our newest vessels equipped with Mark III railguns. There were murmurs throughout the chamber. Some species were grateful for humanity's help. Others worried about giving humans too much influence in galactic military operations. But no one could deny that the railguns had proven effective, and effective weapons were exactly what they needed. Fleet Admiral Kang Dae-ho received his orders directly from Earth's United Defense Command. Take the battle group to the Carina sector and integrate with the Council fleet. Coordinate with other species. Protect the galaxy, no pressure. He stood on the bridge of the Indomitable as his small fleet assembled. 12 ships compared to the 200 from other civilizations. But his ships carried weapons that could change the course of battles. That had to count for something. Captain Lee Hana's Soul's Pride was part of the battle group, as were several other destroyers and cruisers. All of them mounted railguns. All of them had crews trained in the new combat doctrine that Dr. Park Ji-woo had developed. All ships report ready. Lee Hana's voice came over the comm. We can jump to FTL on your command. Kang Dae-ho looked at his crew. They were scared. He could see it in their eyes. They had won one battle against Korthians who weren't expecting the railgun. This would be different. This would be against an enemy they knew nothing about, an enemy that had conquered other galaxies. Remember your training, he said to the bridge crew. Remember what we're fighting for. Every person in the Carina sector is counting on us. Every species in this galaxy needs us to succeed. He paused. Today we're not just fighting for Earth, we're fighting for everyone. The fleet jumped to FTL. 12 ships disappearing into the void between stars. The combined Council fleet assembled at the edge of the Carina sector over the next 2 days. 200 ships from dozens of species, the largest military gathering in galactic history. The Valdran flagship Eternal Vigilance served as command center, with High Arbiter Velthun coordinating the various forces. Kang Dae-ho met with the other fleet commanders via holographic conference. It was strange seeing so many alien species working together. The Korthian commander, who had recently tried to take human colonies, now sat alongside him, planning defense strategies, old enemies becoming allies in the face of greater threats. The human vessels will form the vanguard, Velthun decided. Your railguns have the longest effective range and the most destructive power. The rest of us will provide support and defensive coverage. Kang Dae-ho wanted to object to being put at the front, but it made tactical sense. Besides, if the galaxy was trusting humanity to lead, he couldn't refuse that responsibility. Dr. Park Ji-woo arrived on the Indomitable personally, bringing with her the latest targeting algorithms and weapon upgrades. She moved through the ship like a force of nature, making adjustments, improving systems, preparing for battle. The Mark III can fire at 12% light speed now, she told Kang Dae-ho. I increased the electromagnetic coil power and reinforced the barrel. Each shot carries even more kinetic energy than before. Will the ship survive the recoil? Probably, Park Ji-woo said with a slight smile. We'll find out. The Harmony fleet entered sensor range on the third day. 30 vessels, each one massive and menacing. They moved in a formation unlike anything the Council forces had seen before, maintaining perfect spacing and synchronization. Whoever commanded them knew military tactics. The Council fleet held position, waiting to see if the Harmony would respond to hailing frequencies. High Arbiter Velthun transmitted messages in 100 languages and mathematical sequences. All of them were ignored. Then a single message came back in perfect galactic standard language. This galaxy belongs to the Harmony. Submit or be cleansed. You have 1 hour to surrender. Velthun muted the channel and addressed the fleet commanders. Recommendations? We fight, the Korthian commander said immediately. We cannot surrender our homes without resistance. Others agreed. The mood was grim but determined. They would defend their territory or die trying. Kang Dae-ho studied the Harmony ships on his tactical display. Their formation suggests they expect us to charge them. They're positioned for a frontal assault. What if we don't give them what they expect? What do you suggest? Felton asked. Split our forces. Have half the fleet maneuver around their flanks while the human vanguard engages from the center. Force them to divide their attention and defensive fire. After brief discussion, the plan was approved. The Council fleet began repositioning, with the human battle group remaining at the center while Valdran and Nexian forces moved to flanking positions. The hour passed. The Harmony fleet advanced to attack range, and the battle began. The Harmony opened fire first and their weapons were devastating. Focused gravitational beams that didn't just damage ships but tore them apart at the molecular level. The beams bypassed shields entirely, reaching into vessels and ripping their structure apart from the inside. 3 Council ships were destroyed in the first volley. The Valdran flagship took critical damage, its hull buckling under gravitational stress. The carefully planned formation began to collapse as ships scattered to avoid the deadly beams. All ships, evasive maneuvers, Velthun ordered. Return fire. The Council fleet unleashed their weapons, plasma cannons, particle beams, exotic matter torpedoes. The combined firepower lit up space like a miniature star system. But the Harmony ships activated their defensive systems and the Council weapons simply stopped working. Not blocked. Not deflected. The weapons fired, the energy traveled toward the targets and then just ceased to exist. The Harmony had shields that didn't stop attacks but erased them, removing the energy from reality itself. Panic spread through the Council fleet. Their weapons were useless. The Harmony could kill them at will and they had no defense. Human fleet. You are clear to engage, Velthun transmitted. His voice strained. Kang Dae-ho had been watching the battle unfold, studying the Harmony weapons and defenses. Their shields worked on the same principle as everyone else's, just more advanced. They were designed to handle energy weapons, exotic matter, sophisticated attacks, but kinetic projectiles? Would their shields erase solid tungsten moving at 12% light speed? All ships, he ordered. Target the Harmony vessels. Weapons free. Fire at will. 12 railguns discharged simultaneously. The recoil pushed the human ships backward, despite their compensators. Lieutenant Nam Yuna watched her targeting display as the tungsten slug crossed the distance to the Harmony fleet. The Harmony shields activated, attempting to erase the incoming projectile. For a moment, the slug seemed to flicker, as if reality itself was trying to remove it from existence. Then it was through. The shields couldn't erase solid matter moving with that much kinetic force. The physics were too fundamental. Mass times velocity equaled momentum, and you couldn't just delete momentum from the universe. 6 Harmony ships took direct hits. The results were catastrophic. The slugs punched through their hulls like paper, creating explosive decompression and structural failures. 2 ships broke apart immediately. 4 others were crippled, drifting and powerless. The Harmony fleet's perfect formation broke. For the first time, they maneuvered defensively, clearly trying to understand what had just happened. Their shields were supposed to be invincible, but the primitive kinetic weapons had somehow bypassed them completely. Keep firing, Kang Dae-ho ordered. Don't give them time to adapt. The human fleet unleashed a sustained barrage. Every 8 seconds, another volley of tungsten slugs crossed the void. The news spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. Within hours, every major civilization had analyzed the battle data from New Sol. Military academies held emergency sessions. Defense contractors scrambled to understand how their technology had been rendered obsolete in a single engagement. Governments convened crisis meetings. The Korthian Confederacy issued a formal apology within 2 days. Their new military commander, taking over after Tresh's death, personally contacted Earth with an offer of reparations. The message was carefully worded, but the meaning was clear. Please don't shoot us again. In the Valdran Empire's capital, High Arbiter Velthun called together his top military advisors. The meeting room was circular, with holographic displays showing data from the battle. Senior commanders from a dozen species reviewed the footage frame by frame. How did we miss this? Velthun asked, his ancient voice carrying frustration. We've had kinetic weapons technology for millions of years. Every species goes through that phase of development. Why did we all abandon it? General Kresh, a veteran of 1,000 campaigns, answered. Because energy weapons were better, Arbiter. More versatile, easier to control, capable of adjusting power output. When we developed shields that could stop kinetic projectiles, there was no reason to continue using them. Except that we forgot to maintain those specific defenses, Velthun said. Our shields are optimized for energy weapons because that's all anyone uses. The humans simply went back to basics and found a gap in our armor. Another advisor brought up calculations on the holographic display. The projectile velocity is the key factor. At 8% light speed, the kinetic energy is enormous. Our shields can stop slower projectiles easily. But these slugs have too much momentum. The shields can't disperse the energy fast enough. Velthun studied the numbers. Can we modify our shields to counter this? Yes, but it will take years to retrofit the entire fleet. And there's another problem. If we strengthen our shields against kinetic weapons, we weaken them against energy weapons. We can't have both at maximum efficiency. The Arbiter sat back in his seat, looking older than his 10,000 years. The humans have forced us to choose. Defend against their railguns or defend against conventional weapons. And any choice we make, they'll know about it and adapt. On Earth, Commander Kang Deho found himself called to a meeting with the United Defense Command's highest officials. He stood in a room full of generals and politicians, all of them wanting to discuss the battle. How many more railguns can we build? General Huang asked. She was Earth's military commander, a woman who had spent 40 years rising through the ranks. Dr. Park estimates we can retrofit 12 ships within 6 months, Kang Deho replied. After that, we can build new vessels from scratch with the railgun integrated into their design. Maybe 20 ships per year with our current production capacity. And the other species? Another general asked. Will they copy our design? They already are, Kang Deho said. The Nexian Collective announced Project Kinetic Storm yesterday. The Talarian Union is reportedly building 3 test platforms. Within a year, half the galaxy will have railgun technology. General Huang nodded. Then we need to stay ahead. What improvements can we make? Kang Deho thought about that. Higher velocity, better targeting systems, faster recharge times. Dr. Park has ideas for all of those. But there's also the question of defense. Once everyone has railguns, we need to figure out how to stop them. Back on Olympus 7, Dr. Park Jiwoo barely noticed her newfound fame. Universities across Earth offered her positions with generous salaries. Research institutes wanted her to lead their weapons programs. She declined everything and returned to her workshop, already designing the Mark II railgun. The problem with the current design, she explained to Chief Engineer Baek Sung-ho, is the recharge time. 12 seconds between shots is an eternity in combat. If we can get that down to 8 seconds, we effectively increase our firepower by 50%. Baek Sung-ho studied her blueprints. You'll need more power conduits and better heat dissipation. The electromagnetic coils are already operating at 90% capacity. Then we make better coils, Park Jiwoo said simply. Stronger materials, more efficient design. We have 6 months before the first ships need these weapons. That's plenty of time. Captain Lee Hana received a promotion and command of her own ship, the destroyer Soul's Pride. The vessel was smaller than the Indomitable but faster and more maneuverable. It was being fitted with one of the new Mark II railguns, designed specifically for the destroyer's size. She walked through her new ship, inspecting every system, meeting every crew member. They looked at her with respect mixed with fear. She was the woman who had helped fire the first railgun in combat, who had stood on the bridge while plasma bolts tore through the hull. She was a hero, but she didn't feel like one. Lieutenant Nam Yuna transferred to Seoul's Pride as weapons officer. She understood Lee Hana's feelings because she shared them. People treated her differently now, as if firing the railgun made her special, but she had just been doing her job. Thousands had died in those destroyed Korthian ships. Families had lost fathers, mothers, children. Victory came with a cost that no one seemed to want to talk about. Do you think we did the right thing? Nam Yuna asked Lee Hana one evening as they reviewed the ship's weapon systems. Lee Hana was quiet for a moment. We defended our colony and our people. That's what soldiers do. But I wonder if there was another way. If we had more time, could we have negotiated? The Korthians weren't interested in negotiation, Nam Yuna pointed out. They came to take our worlds by force. I know. And I'd do it again if I had to. But that doesn't mean I have to like it. 6 months after the Battle of New Seoul, the Galactic Council held a special ceremony. Ambassador Choi Minho stood in the Great Chamber, but this time he wasn't in the visitors' gallery. He stood on the main floor at a podium reserved for full council members. High Arbiter Velthun addressed the assembled species. The Galactic Council recognizes humanity's elevation to Tier 2 civilization status. With this recognition comes a permanent seat on this council, voting rights on all galactic matters, and access to restricted trade routes and technologies. The chamber erupted in sounds of approval from thousands of species. Choi Minho bowed respectfully, but inside he felt a complex mix of emotions. They had earned this recognition through violence, through proving they could destroy others. It wasn't how he had imagined humanity would gain respect. After the ceremony, several species approached him privately with proposals for trade agreements, technology exchanges, and military alliances. Everyone wanted to be friends with humanity now. Everyone wanted access to railgun technology, or assurances that Earth wouldn't use it against them. The Nexian ambassador was particularly direct. Our people admire what you've accomplished. We would like to propose a mutual defense treaty. Your railguns and our fleet numbers would make us the strongest military alliance in this sector. Choi Minho considered the offer carefully. I'll need to discuss this with Earth's government, but I'm sure they'll be interested. Not everyone was pleased with humanity's rise. The Tarsan hegemony issued statements about the dangers of giving primitive species too much power too quickly. Several smaller civilizations worried that the galaxy was entering a new arms race, with kinetic weapons triggering a cycle of escalating military development. They weren't wrong. Across known space, governments increased military budgets. Shipyards operated at maximum capacity. Every species with spacefaring capability began developing or acquiring railgun technology. The galactic arms manufacturers, who had enjoyed stable profits for millennia, suddenly faced competition from Earth's weapons companies. Dr. Park Ji-woo completed the Mark III railgun ahead of schedule. The new design could fire every 8 seconds instead of 12, with improved targeting systems and 20% higher velocity. The first Mark III was installed on the Indomitable, which had become humanity's flagship. Commander Kang Dae-ho, now promoted to Fleet Admiral, oversaw the expansion of Earth's military. 12 ships with railguns had become 20, then 40. Earth's orbital shipyards worked constantly, building more vessels to protect humanity's growing colonial territories. But Kang Dae-ho worried. He stood in his office looking at star charts showing the positions of various galactic civilizations. Humanity had made enemies by proving their strength. The Tarsan hegemony viewed them as a threat. Several smaller species resented Earth's rapid rise, and there were rumors of civilizations beyond the known galaxy, powerful entities that might not appreciate the disruption humanity had caused. We wanted respect, he told Lee Hana during one of their meetings. We got it. But respect based on fear is dangerous. The moment we look weak, someone will test us, Lee Hana nodded. Then we can't look weak. That's the problem, Kang Dae-ho said. We're trapped in a cycle now. We have to keep building weapons, keep showing strength, or risk losing everything we've gained. He didn't know how right he was. At that moment, at the very edge of the galaxy, long-range sensors were detecting something new. Ships, dozens of them, moving toward populated space with clear hostile intent. The signatures didn't match any known civilization in the Galactic Council's database. The plasma bolts lit up space like artificial stars. 20 Korthian warships firing simultaneously created a wall of superheated energy that crossed the distance between the fleets in seconds. The Indomitable's shields flared bright blue as they absorbed the first impacts, energy cascading across the protective barriers in waves of light. Shields at 70%, the defensive systems officer called out. Multiple hull breaches on decks 7 through 12. Damage control teams responding. Another volley hit. The ship shuddered violently, throwing crew members against their stations. Warning alarms screamed throughout the vessel. The human shields were generations behind galactic technology. They were never designed to withstand this kind of sustained assault. Captain Lee Hanna coordinated damage control from her station, routing power from non-essential systems to reinforce weakening shield sections. Seal off the damaged decks. Reroute life support to critical areas only. On the view screen, the Korthian fleet maintained perfect formation, shields glowing with power. They weren't even trying to evade. They didn't need to. Their shields could handle anything the humans threw at them. Or so they believed. Commander Kang Dae-ho watched his ship taking damage and forced himself to remain calm. This was expected. The Korthians had superior firepower and defenses. But they had also made a critical mistake. They assumed human weapons worked like galactic weapons. They assumed their shields would protect them. They were about to learn otherwise. Lieutenant Nam, Kang Dae-ho said quietly, "Do you have a lock on the flagship?" Nam Yuna's console displayed the Korthian command ship, larger than all the others, its shields burning bright with defensive energy. Her targeting reticle held steady on the vessel's center mass. "Lock confirmed, sir. Railgun charged and ready. Fire!" The electromagnetic coils activated in rapid sequence, creating a cascade of magnetic fields that accelerated the tungsten carbide slug down the 3-kilometer barrel. The ship lurched backward hard enough that crew members in the rear sections were thrown from their feet. The recoil dampeners screamed as they tried to absorb the force, but physics couldn't be cheated. Newton's third law applied in space as much as anywhere else. The slug left the railgun at 24,000 kilometers per second. It was invisible to the naked eye, a small piece of metal moving at 8% light speed. Sensors tracked it, but to human perception the shot was instantaneous. The Korthian flagship's shields detected the incoming projectile and automatically adjusted to deflect it. Energy shields worked by creating a barrier of electromagnetic force, perfect for stopping plasma bolts, particle beams, and energy weapons. The shields activated at full power, confident in their ability to protect the ship. The slug hit the shields and didn't slow down, didn't deflect, didn't even notice they were there. Energy shields were designed to disperse energy across their surface. But the railgun slug wasn't energy. It was solid matter with massive kinetic force behind it. The shields might as well have been made of paper. The projectile punched through the barrier as if it didn't exist. It struck the flagship's hull with the force of a small nuclear weapon. The impact created a hole 20 meters across, the metal of the hull flash vaporizing from the kinetic energy transfer. But the slug didn't stop. It continued through the ship, passing through deck after deck, its path marked by explosions as it superheated everything it touched. The Korthian flagship's internal structure couldn't handle the energy transfer. Secondary explosions rippled through the vessel as power conduits overloaded, fuel storage ignited, and structural supports failed. Within 3 seconds of impact, the entire ship was breaking apart from the inside out. Commander Tresh had time for one final thought before his bridge exploded around him. The humans had done something impossible, something that shouldn't work. Something that the flagship's power core went critical. The explosion was visible across the entire star system, a brief new sun that burned for 20 seconds before fading, leaving only an expanding debris field. On the Indomitable's bridge, the crew sat in shocked silence. They had known the weapon was powerful. They had seen the test against the asteroid. But seeing it destroy an actual warship, a vessel that should have been invincible, was different. "Target destroyed," Nam Yuna reported, her voice barely above a whisper. The Korthian fleet's perfect formation broke apart as ships scattered, suddenly uncertain. They had just watched their flagship and their commander die in seconds. Every sensor had recorded the event. Every ship had seen their shields fail completely against a weapon they had dismissed as primitive. Across the galaxy, military observers went silent. In command centers and war rooms on 1,000 worlds, strategists stared at their displays in disbelief. The mathematics were clear. The physics were undeniable. The humans had created a weapon that ignored every defensive advancement made in the last 10,000 years. In the Valdran Empire's central command, High Arbiter Velton stood frozen, watching the sensor data replay over and over. The weapon shouldn't work. Kinetic projectiles were obsolete, abandoned by every civilization once they developed proper energy shields. But the humans hadn't followed the normal technological progression. They had jumped from crude rockets to FTL travel through accident, and now they were using weapons that everyone else had forgotten how to defend against. On the Galactic Council station, Ambassador Choi Minho received the battle data in real time. He had been in an emergency meeting with other ambassadors, all of them expressing sympathy for humanity's impending defeat. The meeting had gone very quiet as the first shot's results came through. "Perhaps," said the Nexian ambassador carefully, "we should reconsider the colonization claim." Back at New Sol, the Korthian fleet was attempting to regroup. 19 ships remained, their commanders frantically communicating with each other. Should they continue the attack? Retreat? Surrender? They had expected easy victory. Instead, they had lost their flagship and their leader in the first minute of combat. Kang Dae-ho didn't give them time to decide. "Lieutenant Nam, acquire the next target. Fire when ready." The railgun recharged capacitors, building power for another shot. 12 seconds. That was the minimum time between shots. In conventional space combat with plasma weapons, ships could fire nearly continuously. But the railgun's power requirements and heat buildup meant each shot needed preparation. 12 seconds felt like forever as the Korthian ships began to scatter. Nam Yuna locked onto a destroyer on the fleet's left flank. Target acquired, firing. The second shot launched with the same devastating recoil. The tungsten slug crossed the distance and struck the destroyer amidships. The result was the same. Shields failed. Hull breached. Internal explosions. The destroyer broke in half, both sections tumbling away as secondary explosions consumed them. "Target destroyed," Nam Yuna reported, her confidence growing. The Korthian fleet was in full panic now. Some ships tried to run, activating FTL drives. But FTL required time to charge, and those ships were sitting targets. Nam Yuna fired a third time. A cruiser attempting to flee exploded before its drive could activate. A fourth shot. A fifth. Each time the railgun proved its devastating effectiveness. Each time Korthian shields failed to stop solid tungsten moving at relativistic speeds. The math was brutally simple. Kinetic energy equaled half the mass times velocity squared. At 8% light speed, even 20 tons of metal carried enough energy to vaporize anything it hit. After the 6th Korthian ship died, the remaining vessels broke completely. They scattered in all directions, abandoning formation, abandoning the attack, abandoning any pretense of military discipline. 13 warships fled the system, their FTL drives engaging in desperate succession. The Indomitable held position, damaged but victorious. The railgun stood ready to fire again, but there were no targets left. The battle was over. The bridge crew sat in stunned silence for a long moment. They had done it. 1 ship against 20, and they had won. 6 enemy vessels destroyed, the rest fleeing. It seemed impossible, but the evidence floated in the void around them. Debris fields where Korthian warships had been. Lee Hana was the first to speak. "Damage report?" "Hull breaches on decks 7 through 12, the defensive officer replied. "Shields at 30% and recharging." Casualties reported in the damaged sections. "Medical teams responding? And the railgun?" Kang Dae-ho asked. Dr. Park Jiwoo's voice came over the comm from the engineering deck. "Minor stress fractures in the acceleration coils, but nothing critical. We can continue firing if needed." The weapon performed exactly as calculated. Kang Dae-ho nodded slowly, allowing himself to feel relief for the first time since the battle began. "Stand down from combat alert. Maintain defensive positions. Send rescue teams to recover any Korthian survivors from the debris." Lee Hana looked surprised. "Sir, they attacked us." "And we won," Kang Dae-ho replied. "We don't need to be cruel about it. Besides, those survivors will tell their people what happened here. They'll tell them that humanity can defend itself." On New Sol's surface, 3 million colonists emerged from shelters to see their sky clear of enemy ships. Celebrations erupted across the colony. They had been saved. Earth had sent 1 ship, 1 weapon, and it had been enough. Governor Im Tae-hyung sent a message to the Indomitable. "Thank you, Commander." The council chambers stretched wide and tall, filled with representatives from thousands of worlds. Ambassador Choi Minho stood at the speaker's platform, his hands gripping the edges as he tried to keep his voice steady. Around him, alien beings of every shape and size watched with barely concealed amusement. Some whispered to each other. Others didn't bother hiding their laughter. "The human colonies are lawfully established," Choi Minho said, his words echoing in the vast space. "We have followed every protocol, paid every fee, and respected every boundary set by this council." A creature that looked like a floating mass of tentacles and eyes drifted forward. Its voice boomed through translation devices. "Your species has been in space for barely 50 years. You stumbled into faster-than-light travel by accident. You have no right to claim multiple star systems when you can barely protect one." The chamber filled with sounds of agreement. Choi Minho felt heat rising in his face. Everything the creature said was technically true. Humanity had discovered FTL travel through a laboratory accident in 2197. They had rushed into space with crude ships and desperate hope. Compared to civilizations millions of years old, humans were infants. Commander Tresh of the Korthian Confederacy stood next. The Korthian looked vaguely reptilian, with scales that shimmered purple and gold. The Korthian Confederacy formally claims the human colony worlds. These systems contain resources that an advanced civilization can properly utilize. Humanity can keep Earth and perhaps one moon. That is generous. You can't just take our colonies. Choi Minho protested. High Arbiter Velthun, leader of the ancient Valdran Empire, raised one elongated hand. The room fell silent. The Valdran had maintained galactic peace for 10,000 years through technology so advanced it seemed like magic. When Velthun spoke, everyone listened. "The Korthian claim is valid under Section 47 of the Galactic Colonization Act," Velthun said, his voice carrying the weight of ages. "Humanity lacks the military strength to maintain multiple colonies. This council exists to prevent conflict. Therefore, humanity will surrender the disputed colonies within 30 standard days." Choi Minho wanted to scream. He wanted to flip the speaker's platform. Instead, he bowed his head and left the chamber. Behind him, he heard the aliens already moving on to other business. To them, humanity was nothing. A curiosity, a joke. 3 days later and 400 light-years away, Commander Kang Dae-ho received the transmission from Earth. He sat in his office aboard the military station Olympus 7, reading the orders 3 times to make sure he understood. His second-in-command, Captain Lee Hana, stood across from him, her face pale. "They want us to what?" Lee Hana asked. "Develop a deterrent," Kang Dae-ho said. "Something that will make the galaxy think twice about pushing us around." He was 42 years old and had spent 20 years in Earth's military. He had fought in the resource wars on Mars and commanded peacekeeping missions in the asteroid belt. But this was different. This was about survival as a species. Lee Hana shook her head. "Sir, we're generations behind in technology. The Korthians have energy shields that can withstand a direct hit from a nuclear weapon. They have plasma cannons that can cut through our best armor like paper. What can we possibly develop in 30 days? "I don't know yet," Kang Dae-ho admitted. "But we better figure it out." Dr. Park Ji-woo arrived at Olympus 7 the next morning. She was a small woman with sharp eyes and hands that never stopped moving. She carried a single data pad and a coffee that had gone cold hours ago. Kang Dae-ho had worked with her before on weapons development. She was brilliant, but her ideas often bordered on crazy. "I have something," Park Ji-woo said, not bothering with greetings. She activated a holographic display in the center of the commander's office. A long cylindrical shape appeared, running almost the entire length of a warship. Project Thunderstrike. An electromagnetic railgun. Kang Dae-ho stared at the image. "A railgun? That's ancient technology. Humans were experimenting with railguns in the 21st century. "Exactly," Park Ji-woo said, her eyes gleaming. "No one uses kinetic weapons anymore. The galaxy moved on to energy weapons thousands of years ago. Plasma cannons, particle beams, exotic matter manipulation. Their shields are designed to stop those kinds of attacks." Lee Hana leaned forward. "But a railgun just shoots a solid projectile. Mass times velocity. At 8% the speed of light," Park Ji-woo added. 20 tons of tungsten carbide moving at 24,000 kilometers per second. The kinetic energy on impact would be equivalent to a small nuclear weapon. And here's the beautiful part. It doesn't violate any galactic treaties because it's not an energy weapon or exotic matter. It's just physics. Kang Dae-ho studied the hologram. The design was crude compared to the elegant weapons used by other species. It was basically a very long metal tube with electromagnetic coils. But there was something appealing about its simplicity. "Will their shields stop it?" he asked. Park Ji-woo smiled. "Their shields are designed to deflect or absorb energy. A solid object moving at relativistic speeds? I don't think their shields were built with that in mind. No one has used kinetic weapons in millennia. Why would they defend against them? How long to build it? If we work around the clock and strip parts from every ship in the station? 6 weeks. Maybe 5 if we skip safety testing." Kang Dae-ho looked at Lee Hana. She met his eyes and gave a small nod. They both knew they had no choice. The Korthian fleet was already moving toward the human colonies. Earth's conventional weapons were useless against galactic military technology. This railgun might be their only chance. "Do it," Kang Dae-ho ordered. "I'll get you whatever resources you need." Park Ji-woo was already heading for the door. "I'll need the warship Indomitable. We'll have to install the railgun along its entire spine. The ship won't be pretty when we're done, but it will be functional." Over the next 5 weeks, Olympus 7 transformed into a massive construction site. Engineers worked in shifts that lasted 18 hours. The Indomitable sat in the station's main dock, its hull cut open as workers installed the enormous railgun. The weapon stretched 3 kilometers, requiring the removal of several decks and most of the ship's cargo space. Lieutenant Nam Yuna, the ship's weapons officer, spent every day running calculations and simulations. She was 28 and had been in space for only 3 years. Now she was being trained to fire a weapon unlike anything in human history. "The recoil will be enormous," she told Chief Engineer Baek Sung-ho, a gruff 45-year-old veteran who supervised the installation. "Even with compensators, the ship might shake itself apart." "Then we better build it strong," Baek Sung-ho said. He believed in the railgun when most others doubted. Something about the simple brutality of it appealed to him. News of the weapon spread through the galaxy faster than anyone expected. Within 2 weeks, every major civilization had analyzed the design. Military strategists published reports dismissing it as desperation. The weapon was primitive, they said. Crude, the projectile would be easily deflected or destroyed long before impact. Commander Tresh of the Korthian fleet sent a public message mocking humanity. "A rock thrower in an age of starfire," he called it. His fleet accelerated toward the human colony of New Sol, eager to demonstrate the superiority of true galactic weapons. On Earth, the United Defense Command watched and waited. They had bet everything on this one weapon. If it failed, humanity would lose not just colonies but any hope of respect in the galactic community. Kang Dae-ho stood in the Indomitable's bridge as the final installations were completed. The ship looked strange now, almost ungainly, with the massive railgun running its length. But when he saw the weapon fully assembled, he felt something he hadn't felt in weeks. Hope. "How soon until the Korthians arrive at New Sol?" he asked Lee Hana. 3 days, sir." Kang Dae-ho nodded. "Then we have 3 days to prove that humanity belongs in this galaxy. Prepare the ship. We're going to meet them." Around the galaxy, ancient civilizations prepared to watch humanity's extinction. They had seen countless species rise and fall. The humans were just another story, another cautionary tale about ambition exceeding capability. But they were about to learn something new. They were about to learn what happens when you underestimate the species that remembers how to throw rocks. The installation took 43 days of constant work. Dr. Park Ji-woo barely slept, surviving on coffee and determination. The railgun stretched along the Indomitable's spine like a metal backbone. 3 kilometers of electromagnetic coils and structural reinforcement. Every section had to be perfect. One misalignment and the weapon would tear itself apart when fired. Chief Engineer Baek Sung-ho supervised the final connections, his hands steady despite exhaustion. He had been in space longer than anyone else on the crew, and he had seen plenty of weapons. But this one was different. This one made sense to him in a way the fancy alien technology never had. Push something really hard and really fast. Simple. Effective. Power coupling secured on Section 47, a technician reported. "That's the last one." Baek Sung-ho allowed himself a small smile. "Run a full diagnostic. Every coil, every connection, every bolt. I want to know about problems before they happen." On the bridge, Captain Lee Hana coordinated combat drills with the crew. Everyone needed to know their role perfectly. The Indomitable would be facing an entire Korthian fleet with only one weapon. There would be no second chances, no room for mistakes. Lieutenant Nam Yuna sat at the weapons console, her fingers dancing across holographic controls. The targeting system was relatively simple compared to the complex computers used for plasma weapons. Lock onto target, calculate trajectory based on relative velocity and distance, fire. The computer did most of the work. But Nam Yuna still ran through the sequence hundreds of times, until her hands moved without conscious thought. The recoil dampeners are rated for 80% efficiency, she told Li Hana during one break. That means every shot will push us backward at significant velocity. We'll need to compensate with thrusters. Li Hana nodded. How many shots can we fire before the weapon overheats? Theoretically, the railgun can fire continuously with a 12-second recharge between shots. Practically, after 20 shots we risk structural damage to the acceleration coils. After 50 we'll probably need to shut down for repairs. Let's hope we don't need 50 shots, Li Hana said quietly. The test firing was scheduled for day 45. The Indomitable traveled to an uninhabited system where a large asteroid field provided targets. Dr. Park Ji-woo stood in the observation deck with Commander Kang Dae-ho, watching through reinforced windows as the ship aligned with a 5-kilometer-wide asteroid. The entire galaxy is watching, Kang Dae-ho said. Long-range sensors from a dozen civilizations were pointed at their location. The test would be analyzed by every military strategist in known space. Good, Park Ji-woo replied. Let them watch. On the bridge, Nam Yuna locked the targeting system onto the asteroid. The computer displayed firing solutions, calculating the exact moment to release the tungsten carbide slug. The projectile sat in the loading chamber, 20 tons of metal machined to perfect specifications. All systems green, she reported. Ready to fire on your command, sir. Kang Dae-ho took a deep breath. Everything came down to this moment. If the weapon failed, humanity would have nothing left to bargain with. The Korthian fleet would take the colonies, and Earth would become a minor footnote in galactic history. Fire, he ordered. The railgun discharged with a flash of blue-white light. Electromagnetic coils activated in sequence, accelerating the slug from 0 to 8% light speed in less than 3 seconds. The ship lurched backward despite the dampeners. Crew members grabbed onto consoles and railings as alarms blared about structural stress. The slug crossed the distance to the asteroid in 14 seconds, invisible to the naked eye, but tracked by sensors. It struck the asteroid slightly off-center, and for a moment nothing seemed to happen. Then the asteroid came apart. Not gradually, but instantaneously. The kinetic energy converted to heat and pressure so quickly that the rock flash vaporized. The explosion created a brief flash of light that registered across multiple star systems. When the sensors cleared, the 5-kilometer asteroid was gone, replaced by a rapidly expanding cloud of debris and a crater in space itself. The bridge crew sat in stunned silence. They had known the weapon would be powerful. They had seen the calculations. But seeing it in reality was different. The sheer destructive force was staggering. Did we just... Nam Yuna started, then trailed off. We just proved it works, Kang Dae-ho said. He turned to the communications officer. Send the test results to Earth Command. Full telemetry data. Across the galaxy, military observers reviewed the footage. In the Valdran Empire's Central Command, analysts played the moment of impact over and over, running calculations to verify what they were seeing. The energy release was enormous, but what concerned them most was how the asteroid simply ceased to exist. No shield technology in existence could dissipate that much kinetic force. High Arbiter Veltun watched the analysis with growing unease. The humans had created something unexpected. Still, asteroids didn't have shields or armor. A real warship would be different. Commander Tresh of the Korthian fleet watched the test footage and laughed. An impressive firework, he told his officers. But our shields will deflect it easily. Kinetic weapons were abandoned for a reason. They're slow, predictable, and easily countered. His science officer looked less certain. Sir, the energy calculations suggest... I don't care about calculations, Tresh interrupted. I care about reality. Our shields have stopped everything the galaxy has thrown at them for 300 years. One primitive human weapon won't change that. He stood and addressed his crew. We proceed to New Sol as planned. When the humans fire their rock thrower, we'll show them why they should have stayed on their little planet. The Korthian fleet consisted of 20 warships, each one larger and more advanced than the Indomitable. They moved in perfect formation, shields at maximum power, weapons charged and ready. They expected to crush the human colony's defenses within hours, then wait for Earth to surrender the rest. On New Sol Colony, 3 million humans watched the sky and waited. Governor Im Tae-hyung had ordered evacuations to underground shelters, but there was nowhere to run. If the colony fell, these people would become subjects of the Korthian Confederacy. Earth had promised help was coming, but many doubted any help would be enough. The Indomitable made the jump to New Sol's system 2 days before the Korthian arrival. Kang Dae-ho wanted time to prepare, to study the terrain and plan defensive positions. The ship hung in orbit above the colony world, a single vessel against an incoming fleet. "We're outnumbered 20-1, Lee Hana said as they reviewed tactical displays. "Even if every shot hits, we can't possibly take them all." "We don't need to take them all," Kang Dae-ho replied. "We just need to make them think twice about continuing the attack. Sink enough of their ships and the rest might reconsider." Dr. Park Ji-woo worked with the weapons team to fine-tune the Railgun's targeting systems. The test against the asteroid had revealed minor calibration issues. Nothing critical, but in battle minor issues could be fatal. She made adjustments to the electromagnetic coils, tweaking the power distribution to maximize both velocity and accuracy. Baek Sung-ho ran structural tests on the ship's frame. The recoil from the test shot had caused microfractures in 3 support beams. They were repaired and reinforced, but he worried about sustained firing. 20 shots seemed achievable. 50 would be pushing it. More than that, and the ship might break apart from the stress. Nam Yuna practiced on the simulators, running through battle scenarios over and over. Lock target. Calculate trajectory. Fire. Wait 12 seconds. Lock next target. The rhythm became automatic, her hands moving before her conscious mind gave the command. On the 3rd day, the Korthian fleet emerged from FTL at the edge of the system. 20 warships, shields glowing with barely contained energy, weapons hot and ready. They moved toward New Sol in attack formation, making no attempt at stealth or subtlety. This was a show of force, a demonstration of power. Commander Tresh opened a communication channel to the Indomitable. His reptilian face filled the view screen, scales gleaming. "Human vessel, you are ordered to stand down and surrender. Your government has been informed of the Korthian claim to this system. Do not interfere and you will be allowed to leave." Kang Dae-ho stood on the bridge, hands clasped behind his back. Around him, his crew waited tensely. Every eye was on him, waiting for his response. This was the moment. Everything humanity had worked for, everything they hoped to become in the galaxy, came down to the next few seconds. He looked at Commander Tresh and spoke clearly. "Come and take it." The Korthian commander's expression shifted from amusement to anger. "Very well. You have chosen extinction." The channel closed. The Korthian fleet accelerated to attack speed. 20 warships against 1, shields capable of withstanding nuclear weapons, plasma cannons that could melt through armor in seconds. It should have been a massacre. Kang Dae-ho turned to his crew. "All hands to battle stations. Weapons free. Show them what humanity is made of." Lieutenant Nam Yuna's hands flew across her console, locking onto the Korthian flagship. The railgun hummed with building power, electromagnetic coils charging. The targeting computer calculated distance, velocity, and timing with cold precision. The Korthians opened fire first. 20 plasma cannons unleashed hell across the void.